24th September 2012. It's 10:30 a.m. It's been a normal day so far. After the morning assembly, the kids are working on an art project. When suddenly, this little girl darts into my classroom, stands right in front of me, looks at me, and takes a couple of moments to sort of catch breath. She's panting. And then she says, "Tabassum khatam ho gayi hai, or tabassum is no more." Tabassum was a 9-year-old sparky-eyed child in my classroom, and also one of my biggest fans. She loved everything I did, and my days were incomplete without her thank you notes and her hugs. She was struggling with a couple of subjects here and there, but working very hard. But fate had something completely different planned for her. It took me some time to sort of comprehend what was happening, and when I finally did, I had no idea what to do. My teacher training had taught me how to lesson plan, how to work with difficult parents, how to work with difficult headmasters, principals, other teachers, and this gamut of stakeholders, but very slyly missed out on death. And I wasn't prepared. Well, I don't think we are ever prepared for death, and more so of a 9-year-old. I immediately ran for the funeral, but before I could reach the graveyard, the funeral was over. I saw her parents coming back. And let me tell you, I had never wanted to see someone so badly. I've never wanted to see someone so badly ever in my life till date. But by the time I reached, the funeral was over. I met her dad. Her dad was this big wreck, and I did not know what to say. I just gave him a hug. He told me, "Sir, please come home." I said, "Okay, no, I just want to go and visit the grave." I walked in, the guard pointed towards this mound with rose petals strewn all over it. And there was this black stone with Tabassum written in Hindi. This was my first time in a graveyard. And I did not know what to feel, because everything inside me was all over the place, because for the first time I realized that the person I knew and I played with and I worked with was now a couple of feet under the ground, covered with mud. It was a very claustrophobic feeling. It was very, very claustrophobic feeling. I started crying, I started questioning every single thing that I believed in, every single thing that I knew. I must have been there for a couple of hours before the guard came and asked me to leave, because they were closing that place down. I went back to Tabassum's house and I sat down with her parents. So I chose to start this day with this story, because this story was, and actually is, the biggest reality check that I could have ever had. It told me that the reality I was living in was very different from the reality my students lived in. While I was equipped with all fancy mosquito repellents the moment I heard of dengue, Tabassum, who lived next to a garbage dump, did not even know that dengue was a scare, and that when she fell sick, her mother resorted to age-old methods of cold packs and things like that. And by the time they took her to the doctor, it was a little too late. I understood that the dreams and aspirations of the reality that I was trying to feed my children would not stand the moment they stepped out of my classroom. And I think that was the very moment when I realized that I had stepped into something which is much bigger than myself, and that it would take a lot of us to even make a significant dent. Which is why I'm really happy today. When I'm standing in front of you all, I see a lot of people who are passionate. and ready to be ignited. And it gives me a lot of hope that we can together make the world a better place to live in. So I was 21 when I realized that these knots which are stopping me from sleeping at night or sort of disturbing me from sleeping at night were actually remains of wings that I did not use when I was young. Yes, I was meant to fly long before I was 21. But anyway, I decided to take the leap. A poet trained to be an engineer walked into a classroom. And I am not a believer, but trust me, when I saw my students smile, I knew that you did not have to die to go to heaven. Heaven was right there. And these days, I work with teachers very closely. I teach them how to, or I help them unclasp those wings which are neatly tucked under the heavy bags that our children carry every day. And yes, that's what teachers are supposed to do. Help students find their purpose and reach to their potential. But I have seen a completely different story. I have learned more as a teacher. And that is why I strongly recommend teaching as one of the tools of finding yourself. One thing that I know is that all of us have this one common big purpose. And tell me yes or no. We all are looking for happiness and peace at the end of the day. Right? Right? Yeah. Our definitions of happiness and peace may be very different, and we may have our own ways of seeking happiness and peace, but at the end of the day, we are all looking for happiness and peace. But the funny thing is there's no one action or thing or move or person who can give you that happiness or peace. It's a constant pursuit of understanding yourself. One thing that I've understood in the last 27 years of my being is that there's no one solution. There's just a constant increase in the depth of understanding the elements in hand. What makes you angry? What makes you sad? What makes you happy? And everything in between and beyond that. So the question is, how do you understand yourself? How do you do that? And there are multiple ways to do that. But one thing that worked for me, and I've seen many people go through that same experience, was teaching. Teaching has been the single most powerful experience in my life. And teaching gave me this opportunity to live multiple lives within one life. I lived many lives through all the stories that my students wrote, through all the tiffin boxes, through all the conversations that I had with them, with everything that they chose to do and everything that they chose not to do. All these experiences together brought me closer to myself, helped me understand myself a little bit better. And even today when I walk out of classrooms, I know myself a little bit better than when I had walked in. So I'll tell you a small story to sort of illustrate this whole understanding piece. So Khushbu is this small child in my classroom. When the story is happening, she's around 9. She's extremely shy, has a small group of friends, and she does everything with them, plays with them, studies with them, and only talks to them. She does not even talk to me. When I talk to her, she looks down. She does not even look me in the eye. And she is very hardworking. But the problem was that I was struggling to teach her. I was struggling to find that right way to teach her simple things like letter sounds, place values, and number sense. And I was doing everything. I tried everything from extra lessons to getting her parents involved to these fancy manipulatives that I got online. I reached out to my coach, to my peers, to everyone possible to find a solution, but nothing worked. And then this happened. It was a Saturday morning. My kids were giving their regular 30-minute math weekly assessment. I usually gave Khushbu and a couple of other children 15 extra minutes to solve their assessments. But on this day, I took Khushbu's paper away after the first 30-minute bell. And I collected the other papers, I went and I was putting them in my bag when this other child from my classroom, Fiza, walks up to me and asks me a very simple question. Bhaiya, why did you take Khushbu's paper 15 minutes before you were supposed to do? I looked at Fiza and I told her, so I know she'll not be able to finish it. And there I was, facing my truth, something that I was running away from. But I was brought face to face with the truth that I had lost all my belief in Khushbu. I had lost my faith in Khushbu. And that's a space you don't want to be in as a teacher. You don't want to realize, or you don't want to actually lose faith in any of your kids. And that's where I was. So this is what kids do. Students are like mirrors. They don't judge you. They show you exactly the way you are. And that's pretty scary because you can't lie to yourself. You are seeing yourself do exactly the same things. There's no filter. There's no filter, absolutely no filter. And so basically if you think of it, your classrooms are like these dance studios. But you're not really preparing for the next so you think you can dance. You're correcting and sort of cleaning your moves that you do or the steps that you take in life. Pretty amazing, right? How many of us have thought of teaching like that? And that's why I think teaching is something that all of us should do at least once in a lifetime. The world needs people who can give others a second chance. The world needs people who love unconditionally. The world needs people who can see beyond what the eyes can perceive. The world needs people who know what they're strong in, what is their weakness, what are their biases, and most importantly, people who know what are the consequences of their actions. And teaching is this magical experience that brings you closer to being this person. And I can vouch for that. I have seen that happen time and again. Be it in my experience as a Teach for India fellow, as a Teach for India staff member, or currently in my work with Simple Education Foundation. I've seen teaching transform lives like anything. And that's why I urge you to go and find that classroom that needs you. Or rather, find the classroom that you need. And while you are in the process of molding a better human being, become one instead. So go teach if you haven't already, because I really can't stress upon the fact, on the truth of this statement. I think this is very cliche. Every teacher tells this, but that does not take away from how true it is. My children, my students have definitely taught me more than what I have taught them. So yeah, go teach. And I would like to wish you all the best on your transformational journey once you start teaching. Shukriya.